Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Hannah and today we're going to do the Booktube Newbie Tag. To be honest, I was going to film my May TBR, but it's super gloomy and cold and raining. It snowed earlier, so I wasn't really in the mood to pick a May TBR today. So I'll probably do that next week. I might even combine it with my April wrap up, depending on timing. But anyway, to the tag, it looks like there's 11 questions to answer. I have them all on my iPad down here, so if you see me looking down a lot, that's why. But anyway, let's just get right into it. First question is, why did you start this channel? And the main reason is just because I want to be more involved in like the online book community. I have some friends in real life, my best friend, a couple coworkers, some other friends that read, but I just love talking about it so much. I need somewhere to just babble all the time about this. So it's kind of the simple answer. Months ago, I started posting on TikTok like TBRs and wrap-ups and a little bit of other book content. But I feel like TikTok's very short form, so there's not a ton you can say. I mean, you can, but a lot of people don't stick around and watch those. So I feel like YouTube was kind of more of an appropriate platform for some longer form content based around my reading. All right, question number 2 is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? This is probably the question I struggled with the most when trying to come up with answers for, and that's because being a self-critical person, I don't think there's anything unique about me, but I guess, in terms of other booktubers I watch, I feel like a lot of them read a lot of the genres I read, but a lot of them also read a decent amount of contemporary romance, which you're really not going to find that here. Maybe once in a while just to test the waters and see, because I'm not afraid to go outside of my comfort zone. But again, I feel like it's not to say that like fantasy and other books aren't formulaic, but I feel like contemporary romance is really bad for following the same formula most of the time. Again, this is why I'm okay with reading outside my comfort zone, because I know there's outliers to that and I will give those a chance. But for the most part, I think we can agree that a lot of them are very predictable. Question number 3 is, what are you most excited about with starting this new channel? Honestly, I just really want to engage in the online community, and just have more people to talk about with books. I watch a lot of booktubers already, like Larry, Mariana, Bailey, Sarah, Katie's Reading, so all of them, I watch their videos all the time. Oh, and Ellen too. And to me, they don't know me, but I consider them my friends because I love to watch them read, hear what they think about books, kind of take that into consideration if it's something I'm gonna like. And I just like the idea of maybe being that person for someone else, and just getting a chance to talk with people and get their views, opinions, recommendations, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what I'm excited about. Question number 4 is, why do you love reading? And I could go on and on and on with a bunch of different reasons, but the number one reason I love reading is it is an escape for me. I can take a break from the real world and just get lost in a book, into an epic story or some other tragic story. It's an escape. It's emotionally provoking most of the time. As someone with anxiety and depression, and the job I work to is very stressful, a lot of traumatic things you can see in my field, and it's just kind of nice to be able to put that all away for a few hours and just get lost in a book and absorbed in a story and connect with different characters. And then also that goes hand in hand with that is being able to like bond with other people because they experience the same feelings from these books. Question number 5 is, what book series got you into reading? And this one's kind of a tricky question because I've been a reader my whole life, but many ups and downs of I'm reading all the time to like I barely touch a book for months or even years. So like when I was a kid, I grew up with Harry Potter. Like when I was a small child, my mom would read it to me for the first like book or two, and then I kind of took over myself as I got older. I vividly remember in elementary school, one of the book series one of my teachers had and loved and that I was obsessed with was the Magic Treehouse books. So I loved those. So, and then, you know, entering middle school era was when Twilight came out, and that was a huge part of everything. Kind of into high school too, like Hunger Games, that kind of era. And then high school, college, I kind of had a big decline, more assigned reading for classes. A lot of those books, honestly, in my opinion, were drier and less entertaining. You know, I did have my favorites of some of our assigned reading, but for the most part, I didn't love most of them. And that kind of killed my spirit for reading for a bit, until in college, like later in my college career, I took a young adult literature class, and I had so much fun with that class, like reading those books and reporting and discussing them. But then I was kind of lost as to what do I read? Do I keep reading YA? But a lot of it, not a lot of it, but some of it still felt pretty juvenile at where I was in that life stage. And I don't know, I was kind of lost. I didn't know what to read. I hadn't found any online communities or stuff like that. And it wasn't until like 2019, 2020 era that my friend had me read ACOTAR, and that really, again, I feel like most people, that was their series that really got them into or back into reading. And that's what really kickstarted my reading again. Question number 6 is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? And really all I want to know is if they took a couple of my videos to get a feel for what my tastes are, what books would they recommend for me? Based off knowing what I've already read, what I haven't read, that kind of thing. Just because like the booktubers I watch, again, I consider them my friends. So just to have them recommend a book after seeing what I kind of like to read and what they think, oh, because you've read this, this, and this, you would absolutely love this. Like that would be the best thing in the whole world. And that's really all I can think of other than, do you guys want to be my friend? That would probably be the other question I would ask. That one's pretty short and sweet, I guess. Question number 7 is, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I feel like most common answer, at least in my opinion, is anxiety. My mind is sometimes a terrible place, and my mind says, why are you even doing this? No one's gonna watch you. People who do watch you gonna hate you, so what's the point? But I just gotta remember that I'm just doing this for me. This is something I love, and I just want to share with others, and if others get something out of it, then that's great, and if not, at least I have somewhere to share these thoughts and opinions I have on something that I love. Second part to this question is also, I have a full-time job, so kind of balancing making videos, editing videos, doing all that kind of stuff with that, and home life and everything else going on in my life. That's another kind of obstacle, but I feel like, I don't want to say it's easy to get around, but I feel like anxiety is kind of the number one thing, and then that's kind of an add-on to that. So that's really all for that one. Number 8 is, when did you start reading? And I feel like I kind of touched this into the series that got me into reading, and so I've always been a reader since I was a small child, and kind of some ups and downs through like middle school, high school, but really sharp decline, high school, college for sure. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I was checking back on my Goodreads, and when I really started reading more consistently and actually tracking my reading was about 2019. And it's just kind of gone on exponentially from that year of just me consuming more and wanting to read more. And then I've been pretty steady these past few years, so I guess that's pretty much it. Question number 9 is, where do you read? And you're kind of looking at my prime location for reading. It's not much right now because we're kind of renovating the house that we're in. So there's a lot of work to be done. I want to get a new chair. We're gonna redo all these walls. The windowsills still need to be sanded and painted. So a lot of stuff. I want to get like Billy bookshelves for over here to put all my books. But so yeah, this is like my little reading nook. It's basically a little nook off of our master, but I'll read almost anywhere really. I'll read out on the couch. We have a nice little front porch area once we finally get warm weather and sunshine. I love to read out there. I'll read my Kindle in bed all the time to fall asleep to. I read on my lunch at work, so that's in our break room, or if it's nice out, I like to pop the tailgate on my car and just sit out there and eat my lunch and read. So anywhere I can read, I probably will read. Question number 10 is, what kind of books do you like to read? And I feel like I touched on this a little bit, but a little more detail. Fantasy is a big one. I feel like most of the fantasy I read tends to fall into the romantasy genre, but romance isn't a necessity for my fantasies. I just like a good, gripping, interesting story. High fantasy I kind of delve into a little bit, but I don't want to say it's a chore, but I just feel like sometimes those books are harder to get through, so I don't read as much as I probably want to, just because they're more of a time commitment to me. I've read The Hobbit. I do want to actually read Lord of the Rings trilogy. I kind of want to dive into Brandon Sanderson, but his books scare me so much, the whole Cosmere and everything. So I am intrigued. I would love to. It's just daunting and intimidating and scary. I also read dark romance. I said I don't like contemporary romance. I like dark romance because the stakes are higher. Usually someone's life is at stake, or like something like that. That's just gripping and entertaining and keeps me hooked, and I need to know what's going to happen. Whereas like in a regular contemporary romance, at the end they're going to end up together, usually. So that's kind of my take on that. Mystery thrillers, again, those are usually really gripping, fast reads. They just have you entertained and you need to know what's going to happen next. So I fly through those books. Obviously good ones, not to say every mystery thriller is good. There's a lot of duds out there, and those happen from time to time, but generally I like those stories because they're interesting. And then horror. I also read horror, not like your typical, I'm not like a huge Stephen King fan. I've read some of his works and they're good. But I guess my issue with horror, and it's not really an issue per se, is I find it's hard to translate horror in a book. I feel like with horror movies, which I'm also a huge fan of, you have a lot of visuals that can give you that disturbing sense of dread or be horrified. Whereas in a book, you don't have that visual aspect per se. You can kind of describe it, but it doesn't have the same punch. So if an author is still able to disturb me or scare me just through words, then that's amazing. And I just find it's kind of hard to find books that do that for me. But when I do, it's fantastic and I love it. And then the last question is, what does your book collection look like? And to be honest, it's not the most captivating book collection right now, so I could just show you, but I'll just kind of describe it to you. If you saw my TBR cart tour video, that's probably the majority of the books I own are to be read books. In that video I mentioned anything that's like a sequel or a continuation of a series of things that are on that or have their own little space in a shelf in my closet. I do have a small little like angular bookshelf right here in my reading room, and then I have one singular bookcase out in my den. But again, I'm hoping to redo this whole room, get some like Billy bookcases, and eventually get those filled. I feel like they're gonna look pretty bare when I first get them installed because the amount of space I have to work with, I can fit quite a few. But that'll just be more of a goal to find nice pieces to put on there. So that was the last question. That's pretty much everything I have. If you guys have any recommendations for my May TBR, that would be appreciated, especially if you watched my TBR cart tour and you're dying for me to read something on there. Bonus points for that. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. I will hopefully see you guys next week with another video, and that's all. Bye.